them go, let them grow. Let them go, let them grow.
Hello, hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
We are back again.
Give it just a minute for people to hop on so they can tell us where they're watching from. Josh, we have a comment said that they'll pop up on the stage. I don't know. Can you see that down there in the corner? Does it show?
Is there anything popping up?
Not yet.
Not yet. As y'all hop on, leave us a comment. Let us know. Oh, there's Lisa.
Hello, hello.
I see him, but it's barely.
It is tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Lisa Swain, Catfishing Lady on here. I was on their podcast last week. Trophy Seeker. It's on YouTube.
Well, I guess we can get started.
Yep.
I think people are still getting in the swing of us being back.
I've got it zoomed in. I can barely see it. I can read it.
We can put them up bigger. It's just when we had a bunch of comments, it was easier to put them up there so that
I got you. Yeah.
so we could. But I'll just pop them up so we can see.
Hi,
them.
Lisa.
That way. There. Is that better?
There we go. Yeah. There we go.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us. We are The Last Run, Catfish Conservation. I am Ashley with Last Call Catfishing.
I'm Julie with Run and Gun Catfishing, and today we have...
I am Josh Roth with River's Edge Reproductions Taxidermy.
Thank you for joining us, Josh. We're excited to have you.
Excited to be here.
So I think we start by telling everyone, what is River's Edge Reproductions? What do you do?
I do fish reproduction taxidermy. I have a feeling probably a lot of people that are watching or will watch this, I've either met before or have maybe seen me around or heard of me. But it started about 5 years ago. I've always been a big hockey fan and have painted goalie masks just in my free time for fun. And I had a buddy say, you know, with how good you are with your airbrush and how much you like to fish, I'm surprised you don't do fish replicas. And it blew my mind because it never crossed my radar. So I just bought a couple blanks just to play around with for myself. And here I am now doing it full time about not even 5 years later. So I do fish replica taxidermy. In a nutshell, basically, I make fish mounts. If you don't, well, majority of the time customers have released their fish already, and I just take photos and measurements and can replicate their catch.
That was very cool.
How long does it typically take you to make one? Does it just depend on the size and all that?
It kind of depends on if we're doing like a 360 mount, like either of these two back behind me, or if we're just doing like a single-sided wall mount. Usually I can get a wall mount done in about 2 weeks whenever I start, from start to finish. That's not to say that from the time somebody puts a deposit down, they'll have it back in 2 weeks. I've got about a 12 to 14 month backlog of work. That's just how long it takes me to get, you know, from the time a deposit comes in till the time the project is complete. But actual work time, 1 to 2 weeks on the project. Like the one, well, we'll probably be talking quite a bit about this one. I've been working on this one off and on since the Twisted Cat Expo, but usually when I do a 360 like that, I can have it done 2-3 weeks. I'm still waiting on the pedestal to get completed for that before I build a habitat and can mount this, but the fish itself is done. So
Very cool.
It is really, really cool. What's your favorite one to do? Like, do you like them all, or do you like 360 ones?
It depends on how busy I am and like what it is.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, my least favorite type of fish to do is anything cold water. I say that, and I just finished a beautiful 25-inch cutbow trout, and I can pull.
Yeah, show it. I saw that, and
Yeah,
you had to tweak it, didn't you? Is that the one that I just saw? You had to tweak
Yes.
the face. Yeah.
Tweak,
So
tweak is
tell us.
being generous.
Yeah,
Hold on,
generous.
let me grab it.
Understatement. Is this a bass fishing channel? Asking for a friend. Yes.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
That is
So this fish is a male cut bow. It was 25 inches
Oops.
long
There.
and was caught by a customer out in Colorado on a fly that he actually tied himself. But whenever I got this blank,
This is not working. Fix it, girl. Here we go.
His fish was a male, which, if you're not familiar with the difference between male and females when it comes to the salmonoid family, males typically have a longer upper snout, and then their bottom jaw can hook up, as they get older and mature. This one wasn't super bad, but whereas the females will have a much shorter, rounded nose on them. I don't have anything close to show you the difference, but this blank was the only size blank, or the only blank that was his size as far as length and weight on it. But it was a female. The head was wrong on it, and it had gills that were like flared out, and it looked stupid, just to be nice on it. So I happened to have a male head, or was able to get one, cut it off, put it on there. But I mean, you can see how many spots and scales are on this thing. Every one of those little bitty scales is painted individually at least once. Some of them are painted 2 and 3 times. So you can imagine why cold water fish are not a particular friend of mine. But because what was normally pretty common in the taxidermy world is people would charge the same rate regardless of the species. About a year ago, I kind of got out of that because I had a couple of mentors of mine said, hey, look, obviously stuff like this takes a lot longer to paint than others, so you need to charge accordingly. So I've kind of got a tier system now where I have skin fish like catfish, spoonbill, sharks are one price point. Scaled fish like bass, crappie, walleye, stuff like that are on a second price point. But then when you get into the cold water fish like that, you take price point number 2 and you mark it up 25% just because I've got about 4 sits in this thing. Now, I didn't spend 4 full days painting it, but I paint on it for a couple hours, have to get up, do something else. Paint on it the next day for a couple hours, get up, do something else. And my wife will tell you, by the time I got done with this, she was tired of hearing about it. But I don't blame her because I'm going to hang it back up. But yeah,
a challenge.
They take a little bit longer.
Absolutely. Hey, Jeremy, welcome in. Julia is such an easy, fun person to talk to. The chats can last a long time. That's no doubt, Lisa.
Flathead are by far my favorite to paint, though. They've become I've really started to like painting those. I've been tweaking some techniques and stuff on them and getting to a point where, well, nobody's going to be in the taxidermy world in here, but I am doing my competition piece this year. It's going to be a flathead catfish. Typically, I wouldn't disclose that because you don't want the judges to know whose is what, but I already have the fish cast and molded. I just have to pull a blank out of the mold, and I've got a lot of the base has already been completed, but it's going to be really cool. But I won't post any pictures of that till probably last week of July after the national show. So other than that, I can't really talk about it or show anything on here, but I am doing a flathead.
Very
I'm
cool.
really excited.
Yeah.
Well, you do amazing work.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep. So how did you get into catfishing?
I can remember it's probably been about 10 years ago. One of my buddies said, hey, we're going to go run some limb lines tonight. You want to go? So I grabbed a 12-pack of Coors Light and hopped in the John boat with him. And the first tree that was just shaking like crazy, and it had a, 10, 15-pound blue on there, I was hooked. So I went out and probably spent $200 on all this stuff and made my own limb lines and kind of got into it that way. And then, started to do jugging a little bit too and running bank poles. And then I was rod and reeling some. And then it got to a point where, once I kind of figured out how to catch fish on rod and reel, I've still got my bank poles over here, but they're covered in a 1/4 inch of dust. I couldn't tell you the last time I ran any kind of set line. I mean, they're fun to take kids out and stuff with, or if, you got a big fish fry, you need a bunch of fish if you're struggling to catch them on rod and reel. But yeah, I think around here, I'm in Southeast Missouri. That's kind of the progression of a lot of, the locals around here. I know there's some guys that are really gung-ho, rod and reel only. And that's kind of how I am now. But that was kind of how I got into it and started anyway.
Very cool.
That's cool. Yep. Did you just recently get into tournament fishing?
I honestly, the only tournament that I fished in was yours out in Ohio. I've never actually fished, a tournament for money or anything like that. It's something I might try in the future, but right now I've got too many other irons in the fire, and I know that's, you got to have, a lot of these guys that travel and do like Twisted Cat and stuff like that. I mean, I couldn't afford to take off. I know it's hard enough taking off what I do, doing this full time now.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be really mindful of, how I take off. And
Just put in for PTO.
Yeah. My boss would give me the time off, but I don't get paid days. That's the bad thing.
Right.
Haven't had those for about a year and a half.
Yeah. So what did you do before you got into reproductions in
I was actually in the automotive industry for probably about 18 years. The first 3 or 4 years of that, I was actually in a body shop. I went to trade school for auto body, worked in the paint shop for about 3 years, and then got into the front office writing estimates and whatnot. And then I switched to the dark side and was an insurance adjuster for, ever since then. So it was probably close to 14, 15 years. I worked for a couple different insurance companies. And then, like I said, started this as a hobby about 5 years ago. It quickly turned from a hobby to a second full-time job. And then about a year and a half ago, I finally made the leap and decided to see if we could do it. And we're still paying bills. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's getting easier each day.
Are you self-taught or do you do classes?
Yes. I actually was self-taught. Yeah.
Wow.
The first couple fish I did, I just kind of shot from the hip. I looked at a couple, fish I had on the wall that were done by some people, and then just kind of looked at reference photos and just painted how I thought, you'd paint those fish. And then before I knew it, I kind of got it. I dug into the industry a little bit and started buying some of these how-to videos from these other guys that have been, 30, 40 years in the industry, how to paint a largemouth bass, how to paint a rainbow trout, how to paint a redfish, you name it. Before you know it, I've got like 20 of these different videos. And it's cool because like the first 2 fish I painted, all I did was airbrush and a little bit of hand brush work to do like the scale tipping. But once I started watching these videos, the first video that I bought was how to paint a largemouth bass. And one of the things that Jimmy Lawrence taught in this video was using women's cosmetics to do like the flesh tones around the gill plates and in the mouth and on the face and stuff. So women's makeup, essentially. And it blew my mind, but at the end of the day, it made perfect sense because what do you use makeup for? Flesh tones in your face and whatnot.
Yeah.
So why not use that on fish? And my wife gives me crap because I probably have more makeup than my wife and 2 daughters combined. Same with brushes. I have more makeup brushes than probably all 3 of them as well. And I have my own. I don't use theirs. I have my own.
There you go. They're not willing to share.
It'd be cool though because you learn techniques like that using watercolor pencils, charcoal, all kinds of different things, and it's just you got to think kind of outside the box sometimes on some stuff, especially like this fish back here. You're looking at your picture, and you're like, okay, I see what it needs to look like. How can I make this on this? And sometimes it's putting paint off and taking it off, or putting paint on and then taking it off. Sometimes you're taking it off using steel wool. Sometimes you're taking it off using paint thinner. It's just, what kind of effect are you trying to achieve on it? And there's a lot of trial and error. I mean, but you learn. That's how you learn. So.
Well, I think with art too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there really isn't a mistake that can't be fixed in this type of work with paint. Like if it's not what you wanted, you can kind of layer it and go over it, right?
It can be very difficult, but that's one of the things about being, and it goes for any industry, being good at whatever you do is if you do make a mistake, you've got to know how to correct it. And sometimes when you get into these intricate fish like that cut bow, if you've got 3 layers.
Well, yeah, maybe
already,
not that, but maybe like a solid gray.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways there. And I'll be honest, I had an oh crap moment when I sprayed the clear coat on that cut bow yesterday, and I wanted to cry with how much time I already had in it. But I saw and I'm not going to disclose exactly what happened because I know it's there. Nobody else knows it's there. But that's just the OCD on me. but it was one of those things where I saw something happen and I know kind of what happened. So I did something to kind of reverse it, and I did about 80%. Customer saw pictures of it, absolutely loved it. Cool,
Yeah.
we're good. Send it. So it's gonna dry for another day or so, and I'm actually leaving on a trip Friday. But I told him whenever I get back, we'll put it on driftwood and send it out to him. So, but yeah, he was super happy.
Yeah. Is there like, and maybe it is the fish you just showed us, is there like one that really stands out as like, you just felt like you've really accomplished something, like you just felt the most proud of so far? You know, like that one thing that really sticks out that you'll like never forget that piece or that mount?
I think probably there's two of them that I really like. One that I did for Bill Dance. I mean, it was for Bill Dance.
It's building.
The other one was one I just recently did, and it was the former Illinois state record flathead catfish that was caught out of Carlisle Lake. I did that one for the Carlisle Lake Welcome Center. That was one. It just was such a cool fish. I tried because the fish was caught back in '95. The reference picture I had was a black and white picture, terrible resolution. So I kind of had free reign to paint it however I wanted to an extent. So I tried some different techniques, and that's what's kind of cool too, is sometimes, when you get a fish like that, you kind of have free reign to try some different things because you don't have to replicate like their exact fish. And I did some new things on it that really added some depth to the paint job and to that camo effect on that flathead that I'm not going to lie are going to go into my competition piece. But then on top of that too, I know one of my clients is also a crappie guide on Carlisle, and he said white crappie are predominantly the crappie that he fishes for in that lake. So I actually made the big 78-pound flathead with like a 9.5-inch crappie, like right in its mouth, like it's getting ready to eat it. And I painted like a white crappie too to make it accurate, for that lake. So that was just some real subtle things where, if you didn't really know about the lake, you may not particularly notice, but people that do fish the lake a lot and know about it will really appreciate those little details on there.
That's awesome. Very, very cool.
I think those are my favorite ones that you do. The ones that have the bait in the mouth.
Oh yeah.
They're they're all realistic, but like that's showing like, yeah.
This
so
is
cool.
actually for this fish back here. So for those that don't know about what this is a pay lake fish. I was given the idea by somebody, and they said, hey, you should do a pay lake fish. And of course you get the, okay, why, and he goes, well, hear me out. You should do a pay lake fish, but you should do it for like an educational piece, do all the lesions, the sores and everything on it. That way, you can take it to expos and demos and whatnot. And people that don't know about what's going on with that can, be educated to it. So that idea was presented to me a day or two before Twisted Cat. Might have been the day before, right, the Thursday when I got there. And I had brought it up at the hotel bar at dinner and drinks with some guys, and they were like, dude, that's a super cool idea. Let's talk to some more people about it tomorrow. Before you know it, it was about ready time for VIP to open up, but we already had like 10, 12 people, like 10 or 12 vendors, big name vendors on board with it. And within 2 days, we got this entire piece sponsored by 20 different vendors at that show. And we're going to wait until we're almost ready to get the banner made before I go back through, because, some of these vendors may or may not want their name associated with it, because it's kind of, it can be a hot topic with, vendors and whatnot. So if they want to remain anonymous, that's fine. If they want their name on the banner, we'll put it on there. But as far as like the banner, it's just going to kind of go into detail. It's going to be fully educational. It's going to talk about, how these fish are obtained in these trophy pay lakes, what happens to them, in the trophy pay lakes, the difference between a trophy pay lake and a farm-raised stock pay lake and whatnot. And then we're going to probably have a QR code that goes to the Exposing Pay Lakes website. So that way, whenever I'm at an expo or doing a demo somewhere and people see this fish and they're like, holy crap, what is that? They can take their phone, they can scan the QR code right there, and it'll take them right to that, and then they can see more information about it. Now, this fish right back here behind me. I'll kind of get out of the way and let me know if you can't hear me talk anymore. But these two fish both came out of the exact same mold. I have a mold for a 44-inch by 33 and a half that this fish came out of with this closed mouth. I did put a different head on this one, but this one I actually laid up in a plastic resin so I could actually remove a bunch of girth out of the belly of it. So basically I was able to heat it up and kind of manipulate it. So I removed about 6 inches of girth off of this fish, and based on the measurements of this one, it's about a 60 to 62 pounder. Based on the measurements of this one, it's like 44.6. So the idea, and ironically, this is the same size as a fish that I caught back in September, which is my PB here in the Mississippi. So we're going to have a healthy river fish on display right next to a sick, malnourished pay-lake fish. That way people can actually see, what a healthy 44-inch fish looks like next to a not so healthy 44-inch fish. And it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. It's already ruffled a lot of feathers. I've been seeing it on my comments and whatnot, but I don't care. My Facebook page is monetized, so if they all want to get on there and hate, all it is like free income. And
That check.
I've had a handful of pay lake tackle shops in the past that reached out and be like, hey, I need a 100-pound fish for my shop, or I need you to do a shoulder mount for every tournament that I have here. And then I click on their page and you've got, somebody holding the fish on the ground with the tail up. And I'm like, yes, sorry, I don't support what you do. Delete, block. And they're gone. Even though I do this full time, I shouldn't be pushing away money, but I also have ethics. So I'm not about, supporting anything that has to do with that. So, the people that it upsets are people that I'm not going to work for anyway. So it doesn't really bother me.
I wish we had more people like you in this industry. I really do.
Yeah.
So many of them, when you try to talk to people about conservation, like you said, it's a hot topic, and you try to go to them and they're like, we don't want to upset our customers.
Sure.
Their morals don't come into play there.
Yeah.
All they see is dollar signs.
Mhm.
So we commend you on that. That's really cool that you're doing that, Josh.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And I never even honestly thought about them reaching out for something like that, but it makes sense.
Well, and they didn't really reach out. It was one of these things where, like I said, it was brought up at the hotel at drinks, and I mentioned it to two people, and they said, let's talk about it tomorrow, at the event. So we started talking, 2 people turned into 4 turned into 8. And before you know it, it was
I was going around. I was more talking about pay lakes coming up.
Oh, yeah.
For replicas, but yes, no,
Yeah.
we heard about it the next day, and I was like, that is such a good idea.
Yeah,
So.
and I get, a pay lake, if they've got a bunch of big fish in their lake, or they keep stocking a bunch of big fish in their lake, they want to have a big fish on the wall. That way customers can come in and see, I've got a chance of catching that.
Catching that fish that's bigger than the actual state record that's happening. I mean, just time and time again in Ohio right now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, gee, but yeah, it never even would have dawned on me that it would make sense that they would come to you for that. But so that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up.
Do you have a bunch of pay lakes out there where you are?
No, none.
No.
None from Missouri.
There's no commercial fishing there either, right?
Not that I know of, but apparently there's a holding pond in Caruthersville, Missouri, which is about an hour and a half south of here. And they're using the boat ramp in Cape Girardeau to harvest fish out of my waters to put in that holding pond, and then they take them to
everywhere else.
Your way.
Yeah. Over here.
Yeah. Yeah, because whenever I was talking to some of the people from Exposing Pay Lakes about this fish, they asked me where I was from, and I told them, and they said, oh, yeah, they got a holding pond down in Caruthersville, not too far away from you. So they got another one over in Gorham, Illinois, which is very, very southern Illinois, which I drive right past there to go to Kentucky Dam to catch skipjack. And he said, yeah, they're putting in at Cape Girardeau, they're putting in at Chester. And as the crow flies, Chester is straight across the river from me, Chester, Illinois.
Wow.
And I was like, holy crap. And I just thought we had a big issue in our area with the alternative methods, just the people running trot lines and limb lines and stuff, not letting fish go, which there is a lot of that, but I didn't realize that there was commercial guys in our area, and it's bad in our area. And like I knew the whole Pay Lake thing has been bad for a while, because I mean I've been in the catfish industry for a while, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I came out to your event, Ashley, and got to experience that firsthand. You know, the event was incredible. I love what you guys do. It's identical to what the Patriot Catfishing Group does down in Alabama that I help out with quite a bit. And I've been to a couple of their events, and I've never met any bad person at any of those events. Truly love the cause, but that was the worst fishing I've ever been a part of. And
It's eye-opening, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
because I mean,
it just traveled further and further south down the Ohio, and they are hitting. If you've been at Kentucky, you've seen Lake Barkley all over, all over our waters, and
like I don't know how many boats did you guys have in there. I think my card said like number 54. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we had 56 boats or 57 boats.
And how many people either caught 0 fish or only caught 1 fish? Probably about half.
Yep.
I know there was at least a dozen that didn't catch any, and I was one of those. But like that broke my heart, because for 2 days I did everything I could. You know, we were pulling boards, inside bends, outside bends, flats, up onto flats, down off of flats, fishing transitions, anchored on top of fish, just everything under the sun, but shock in the dang water. And we got 2 bites, 1 bite each day. And I couldn't put either of the 2 vets that I had on my boat on a fish. And that killed me, because that exact same day, Patriot actually had their annual event down in Wilson and Wheeler. And I was watching their live footage. Every captain was literally catching hundreds of pounds of fish. And I mean, every vet was catching 30s, 40s, some of them 70s. And that broke my heart to see because I've been able to provide that experience for a vet down there. And it broke my heart for my 2 vets that I took out up, in Ohio, to not be able to provide that, because the water wet. It's just the water wet.
Yeah. Right. And I know, like, Jess,
it was identical fishing conditions. I mean, sunny, like 70 degrees in both places. It was just, Ohio's been raped.
Right.
Wilson and Wheeler has not.
And there's a lot of our captains, they feel so bad about it that they're like, telling their vet, like, get a hold of me. I will take you out again. Like, we're not going to leave it on this note, because like you said, like, it bothers them more usually than the veterans. But you want them to have a good experience and to be able to catch that fish. And it's tough here. It's real tough.
Yeah. It tore me up. And I know, one thing that I noticed was, like, the boats that were catching 1 fish, every like single fish was like 10 to 12 pounds.
Yep.
I mean, that was about average, what I thought. I mean, you had the one, what was the big fish? Like a 54-pound blue.
Yeah,
that shocked me. And then there was like a 30-pound flathead, which that shocked me also. But everything else looked like it was in that 10 to 15-pound range. I mean, I can remember the last time I took a vet out down at Wilson and Wheeler, we were hucking 15 to 18s over the rail like it was, I mean, no tomorrow. I mean, they were, we fish Lake of the Ozarks all the time, and we kept my girls catch 8 to 10 pounders from the bank all day. It was like catching 15 to 18s at Wilson and Wheeler like that. I mean, it just blew my mind. And, that would have been a big fish, a fairly big fish, up your way. And I talked to like Terry Rogers. He fishes the Ohio and like where the confluence is to the Mississippi. And he said, he's been a guide there for a long time, and he's always talked about how, how it's just progressively gotten worse and worse and worse. Like he used to be able to catch, 50s and 60s pretty regularly, and now, I mean, it's a lot.
We get dunked all the time. We're just up a little bit further east from Terry.
Okay.
And we used to do so good. Like, in fact, some of our commercial fishermen in our area have told me, like, your husband's got it figured out. Like, he's got them down now. And, he has a little bit of respect, and he's always been, like, cordial to people that he runs into and less provoked. And he has been also provoked by some of them. But anyway, but last year, I've never seen us get skunked so bad. And I mean, this area is where the river raid issues were going on right here, line and rod and reel commercial fishing that's not legal. So this was really hitting our area a lot. And I wanted to piggyback off of earlier is, a lot of when that House Bill 397 first came out to protect trophy catfish in Kentucky, a lot of the argument from those who support the Pay Lakes or are commercial fishermen themselves would say, well, they're not coming from your waters. Yeah, now, maybe not as bad
They're already
now.
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't have anything.
That's it.
Combined.
That's the point. Exactly. Is like you sit here and you watch these numbers, the Rising Sun tournament, almost 200 boats every year, and you're lucky to find a 50 up in, the Rising Sun Indiana area. We were just fishing up there this weekend, could not buy a bite. I'm not like, people did catch some fish, but I don't know how many even caught a bag, and that was just this past weekend. Yeah, it's not going to affect our area as bad because you've already hammered it so bad and you continue to hammer it so bad. But
yeah,
who am I? I just hope it passes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I wish our local conservation areas would be a lot more diligent with it too, because back in November, MDC, Missouri Department of Conservation, stocks trout in some of the local lakes for people to catch fish in the wintertime. And I like to go there and just tinker around. And I was there second day, I think they had it stocked. I was catching fish, and here came an agent. And I actually enjoy talking to game wardens because I've always got all my stuff in line. It's the people that are breaking the laws that can't stand them, which is what it is. But we were sitting there talking, and about the trout thing, and he was a younger guy, and he said, you have any other questions or anything for me? I was like, actually, I do. So I brought up the whole Pay Lake thing. And he looked at me like I had two heads. He had no idea what I was talking about. And he's the dang game warden. So I pulled up Exposing Pay Lakes on my phone, and I showed it to him. And he's like, I never heard of that. And I was like, well, yeah, you
They're
may
coming
want to start looking because
now.
they're in our area. And the county that this was in, it's up against the Mississippi too. So it's like, yeah, you might want to start watching the boat ramps for the Ohio and Kentucky plates because they're here.
Illinois, looking up, because they're Kentucky residents with Illinois licenses, or Ohio residents with Illinois, commercial licenses.
Yeah. You're talking about DNR not recognizing it. Ohio didn't even know about it. When Julie and I started really digging into this and trying to find out all of the information to share it, and I called the head guy to get his opinion on it and to see what we can do here. He had not a clue. Not a clue. And I mean, we border Kentucky. How do you not know what's going on?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I showed that guy too was there was a viral video going around last fall where there was an Ohio truck and commercial boat pulling out at Columbia Bottom up at the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi. And there was a lot of people commented on that, and it circulated around. And I showed him that, and I was like, see? He's like, well, they're not supposed to be commercial fishing in Missouri. I'm like, yeah, I know. They're not supposed to be taking them across state lines either, yet here we are.
There's a comment here, and it's kind of a long one, but we'll put it up here and try to.
I can see it, so if you can't see all of it, I'll help you out.
Okay. People think conservation is cool until it's time to stand up for change and work towards changes. Too many vendors are about the money and public image. What they don't realize is that the money is going to stop. The sales will decline, and they will push themselves out of the market when the drive to go out and fish is gone because the trophy catfish become virtually non-existent or scarce. He's very right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got to talk to any of the guys that have fished the Ohio back in the day. I mean, like you said, even 5 to 10 years ago, and how much better the meadow pool was compared to what it is now. It's crazy to us to think that just that long ago, that they've hit it that hard.
Yeah, and I've heard that from talking to some people too, and Verlena Smith, really good friend of mine. She's like a bulldog with those guys. But, she's one of them that I've talked to about how good it used to be up in that area. And she's kind of at ground zero, too, where with all that started. And after seeing and experiencing it firsthand at your event, and now realizing that it's in my backyard, I don't want my backyard to be like your backyard. No
Right.
offense. I just,
Right,
That's why we
that's
didn't want to
why
go
I'm
back
so-
up north to Ohio. I'm from Ohio, and Charlie loves it here. But now that we're seeing what's going on here too, it's like,
Yeah.
man,
Where you
you just
go?
can't take a break.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to drive 5 hours to Alabama to catch a decent catfish. I mean, I will,
But
but
I don't want to.
it'd be nice to go 10 minutes from here and be able to do it. Because, like, this fish, I actually caught 10 minutes from my house. I could be there in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But
See, every state needs a fishing politician.
Yep.
Alabama's
Yeah.
got a fishing politician, and we all need one.
do they really?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we talked to him after one of our
Nice.
early beginning podcasts last year, and it was really nice talking to him. He just kind of gave us some advice and words of wisdom, and
But
Yeah.
no, like that comment said, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And I don't think that these people that fish these pay lakes realize that, because even just since I started doing this, the few clips that I posted preliminary of this, you get the people in the comments that are like, well, there's plenty of fish out there, and that's the common argument. But it's like, okay, if there are, why are you driving 8 to 10 hours to Missouri or down to Mississippi to Vicksburg or out to the James River to keep refilling your pay lakes? Like,
exactly.
make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And their other comment that they always tell us is that the fish are well taken care of. So why are they stocking all of those fish every year if
Yeah.
they're so well taken care of?
And I don't think that every pay lake does that.
Sure.
There is a select bunch that have made a horrible name that even is impacting the reputation of ones that do not have those same stocking practices. Even if they do stock some bigger or trophy size catfish, they are not doing the same things other ones are. And to me, that's my question I asked, because I was calling pay lake owners. Why aren't you, because everybody points back to one original place. Why are your pay lakes in Kentucky that are suffering the consequences and the negative consequences, aren't you banding together and working together to make change on these pay lakes that are giving you all a bad name? That, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
You know?
And I try to see both sides to everything, but I feel like even if you've got one that's per se not shocking it with the copper sulfate, and they're not continuously stocking thousands of pounds of fish, they're primarily, say, a channel cat lake, and then they start putting maybe a few flatheads or a few blues in there. I feel like that can be a very slippery slope, because it's a very powerful tool. Because it's like, okay, you say you stock a handful of fish over 50 pounds, but everything else is, 5 to 10 pound channel cats that come out of a farm. You start seeing a lot more entry fees for people, and these tournament pots getting a lot higher. And then the owners are like, well, business ethic, or business, I guess. And my brain's about to stop because I've been staying up till 2:00 for the last week getting ready for this trip. But a smart business person will look at that and say, okay, well, if we have more of these big catfish in here, we're going to increase our entry fees by this number amount, and we can make this much more off of our pots. So what do? Before you know it, they're stocking nothing but big fish like that. So I feel like even if they only start stocking a couple of them, I feel like that is essentially just as bad, or will be just as bad, as the ones that stock nothing but the big fish.
Yeah, and they all make those videos of the big slides. Their tarps, they're shooting the fish out of their tanks, and there's several big fish in there, and it's just like, it's heartbreaking to watch those videos and know what's coming for those fish.
Yeah. It says it's because those pay lakes are buying their fish from guys running the bad pay lakes. I mean, I know, but I always try to be the little, just like you. I like to believe that there's good in people, even if it's a situation you don't necessarily agree with, that maybe they're not doing it to the extent, or I don't know. I try to see all sides, and it got hard. I'll just say that. It got hard to be that person, to feel like that, because just like David said, there is no compromise. And I've been told by some of my commercial fishermen that I've spoke to and stuff like that, girl, they're never going to you're never going to be okay. There will never be a bridge of compromise. And I'm like, okay.
And a lot of them aren't even respectful. Like when you try to have a conversation with them, I don't
had an
know
experience.
if they feel like they're, you know what I mean? Like when you comment on stuff online, they attack you.
Well,
You know?
yeah, but a lot of times you can't, with text, you can't read the whatever the tone is. So, you know, there's been times where I was attacked and was an instance that I could not de-escalate, but in every other case, like I was able to have a actual good conversation with everyone, even on Messenger or via phone call. So, but I didn't talk to everyone, you know, I've only a handful of people on the other sides, as you could say, but I don't know. You can only do so much. And I learned that.
Well, hopefully with this fish mount that you're doing, like I hope that brings a lot of attention to it from the people that are just getting into fishing. Because we've reached that. Like we've had people that have messaged us and like they'll just be like scrolling through Facebook or you know YouTube or whatever, and they'll come across this and they'll start listening to some of our show. And they're like, we had no idea, you know, like not a clue that any of this was going on. So
Yeah,
I hope that brings some attention to people.
and I couldn't tell you how many like just local friends and stuff that have come over that have seen, you know, the progress on this, or you know, I've text pictures of it too. They're like, man, that looks cool, but like, why does it look like that? And you say, well, here's why. And then you send them a link, and then they're like, wow, that's kind of like high fence deer hunting. I'm like, well, kinda, but not really, because at least they raise those deer
For that,
and it only takes them 5 to 7 years to get that big. This might take 15, and they're coming out a lot faster than they're going or getting to that size. But it's already. Yeah, that's what that was the look we were going for.
That was the goal.
Yeah,
that was the
goal.
vibe.
That was the goal.
Yeah, mission accomplished on that.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to pick up my iPad and I'll get closer to it so y'all can see it even better. This is the closest look so far of this thing. Hold on. I'm going to come around this way. I'm doing it kind of backwards.
Oh my.
And then I'm going to go to the other side of it too, or you can kind of see.
It's just amazing how real that looks.
It really is.
And I'm trying not to break whiskers off of this other fish next to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, be careful.
But yeah. So
y'all share this out. If you guys are watching, just hit the share button so more people can see this, because honestly, this deserves attention.
I got
a visual.
I got some good videos of it yesterday. Right after I clear coated it, I took some pictures of it outside, and I'll probably post those over the next couple days. But I the only reason I didn't post those today is because I just finished that cut bow, and that was a really pretty fish. So I wanted to generate a little bit of attention to that one first before we release like the first look at the shock and awe one on here. But yeah, it's definitely gonna generate some attention. One of the funny comments that I got, and he's a commercial guy that is very well known in that industry. He said, well, what do you think happens in heavy current when you yank or set the hook on like a 13-aught circle hook on the cornfish's mouth? There's ripping and tearing. And I forget how I responded, but it was something along the lines of, but yeah, that fish, you know, when's that fish going to get hooked again? And I think his response was, well, it's hard to say because you don't know. And I said, well, exactly. You know, a fish in a pay lake, they're continuously getting hooked, whereas the river fish, you pretty much answered your question. You don't know when it gets hooked again, so it usually has a chance to heal. It's like I'm not saying that like ripping and tearing doesn't happen, you know, whenever fish get caught on the river. I mean, yeah, you're fishing 6 or 7 mile an hour current, and you know you get a big torque, you know, a big hit, you know, and there's a lot of torque that goes on. You know, I saw a friend of mine had caught a really big fish in a lake here recently, and it had kind of a cut to the corner of its mouth that looked very similar to the lighter side. Yeah, this side. But, you know, that fish got turned back into that lake, and who's to say when that fish gets caught again, that's not going to be completely healed up, you know. Whereas if it keeps getting caught in a pay lake where they're using those 12-foot rods and just trying to rip the lips off of them, you know.
I don't understand that, but like what?
And you know, I actually had a customer of mine stop in earlier who's a local sheriff's deputy who works closely with the Department of Conservation, was looking at this, and we were talking about that aspect of, well, we started talking about the pay lake thing because he had no idea about it. And then is that the Brad Davis I did a fish for a couple years ago? Maybe I did like a 90 pounder for a Brad Davis a couple years ago. Great big fish. Either way, but squirrel brain, sorry. But we got to talking about the whole pay lake thing, and whenever we were talking about how they yanked them big rods to set those hooks, my thought is maybe because they're so overpopulated and they get stressed in there, they're just like barely nibbling it, and they yank just to make sure they get the hook set, whereas like a river fish just sucks the thing in, and all you got to do is just turn your reel and the circle hook sets itself.
Yeah.
That's just a thought. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But
That's possible. If anybody knows, weigh in the comments. Until catfish can be classified as sport fish, the care and attention will never be a top priority for legislature and regulations. You let someone do this to the bass, or in the bass world, the bass world is on fire.
I think the good thing that we've got going right now is Bill Dance made a really big post about this not too long ago, and everybody knows who he is. So, you know, whenever he says something, people listen. And the fact that he's been such a big advocate for the catfishing world over the last, 5+ years, I think, really helps out. And that was kind of, there's a lot of steam rolling the right direction, right now, which is kind of why we opted to do this and why I think everybody jumped on board, because between the House bill that's rolling right now, the river raid that just hit in Kentucky, Bill Dance's endorsement on, conservation, the catfish world, it's like, you know what, the time's now. So the whole goal of having this mount was to have it done by Steve Douglas's World Championship of Catfishing in May, and to be able to take it and display it at that event, because that's going to be, right there in Kentucky, pretty close to where all that other stuff is going on. So it only felt appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin said it's because the rods are so long and limber. That is the only way they get a fight out of these sick fish, which, Browning knows a little bit about pay lakes, so
yeah,
that would make sense.
He may have helped me out with some reference pictures for this one.
Yeah, I'd say he did. And then John said we need more people with gas cans and torches. Like, there's a few people out there that are trying to make ruckus, but not enough, in my opinion. Not enough that are speaking up that have bigger voices. There are some, but... Did I accidentally put that one up there too? I keep...
It's all right. That way he can see him too.
Yeah. Send the fish to Mars.
And then they run 30 yards backwards.
Uh-huh.
Right. On top of each other.
Yeah.
So
I could never do that, because when we go bait fishing, if there's other people around, I get so nervous that my line is in front of them, because they get so mad at you if you cross them. Yeah. I wouldn't be any good at pay lake fishing.
I'm just talking about bait fishing. Oh my gosh. I swear I just went for the first time this past week. Yeah, I went on like Thursday or Friday, and luckily there wasn't that many people, but I have to bring them back in here with the beaky rigs, because they're so long. And I mean, I'm tall, but I'm like, I just yank them up on the bank. But anyway, that's for another day. But Charlie gets mad because I bring him dirty skipjack because they're covered in dirt and rocks. But yeah, I don't know. I think that this really, hopefully your piece is going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people, and that the right eyes get to be placed on it to see, like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And there needs to be change. You know, I am glad that Kentucky has regulations that are enforceable on stalking practices here, which is different than other places that have pay lakes. That is a good thing. River Raid shows that somebody is watching. You know, Fish and Wildlife here is trying to regulate those types of practices, and we'll see what comes of it. Hopefully something comes of the raid. But yeah, it'd just be good to see other states make changes, and hopefully 397 can be something that makes a difference for us here anyway. But unless
hope that
other
we can
states
get-
follow suit, it won't matter, you know?
I hope we can get some of those people from like Virginia and Maryland to like see this and realize that like the fish that are being taken from there that we keep hearing about, they're not coming from the Ohio, they're not coming from Kentucky, they're coming from out there. Okay, but are you okay with this? Because this is what's happening to them once they come here. You know, like they may be catching them legally with their permits or whatever they get from out there, but that's ultimately what's going to happen to those fish.
Well,
yeah, it's like,
I think Maryland doesn't care though, because as soon as you catch them, you're supposed to dispatch them anyway. So I would say Maryland's going to be a state that doesn't care. They'd rather them come here.
Yeah.
But that's just my thought.
I think, yeah, and I think Virginia is kind of the same way too.
Mhm.
A friend of mine, Olivia Huffman, is on. She's a representative for I don't know the exact term for something out there, but she goes to a lot of these government proceedings and whatnot as far as like trying to get them identified as a game fish also, because there's like anything, there's a lot of politics involved, but I think some of it has to do with they're claiming the saltwater commercial people are claiming that the blue catfish are eating all the blue crab or whatever, and there's been studies that have proved that that's not true. They're just kind of using that as a crutch to kind of get rid of them and call them invasive. But
yeah, which I thought you may have heard this too, that it was what like company potentially over harvesting the blue crab themselves. They don't have enough, so now they are in the mix to be compensated for the harvesting of the catfish. I think Justin told us about this on the podcast several weeks, months ago. Omega, I think, was the name of the company. That it's basically just a ploy, because of they're blaming that, even though it was because of them. They're blaming the catfish, so then they're getting rid of the catfish when that's not really the actual problem, like you said. So
yeah, and that's quite possible. It wouldn't surprise me.
You're not saying. So here's what D said. It's hard to change things, I guess. One side only sees the dollar, and one side sees the fish. We are not the same. So that is a good point.
Yeah, and kind of to go back on, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's particularly right. Like where ethics,
That's what I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not like any kind of tree hugger, I guess you'd say, or anything. But I was like, how is this okay? Like, how is abusing an animal okay? And is that something that could help it? Nope. Fish don't fall under that. I'm like, darn.
Yeah, it's like here in Missouri, we've got spoonbill snagging season is going on right now, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. I think they taste like crap, but if you catch illegal fish, you have to keep it. I'm not going to keep continuing to go catch spoonbill and have to keep them. And what am I going to feed them to my dog? I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't care. Like,
I think they're so cute too. I just saw my first one ever get caught, and I was like,
but it's like
get up close. I just saw it come out of the water, and I was like, they're just so derpy. Like,
yeah, they're cool looking. It's just like, I just wish people had kind of more morals like that, because just because it's right doesn't mean, or just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Yep.
Because I was actually talking to a guy the other day that used to guide for spoonbill, and this is the first year in, I think he said like 20 years, he hasn't taken out a guide trip because, one, there's a lot of people in that area are starting to get on the live scope wagon, and they're just wiping out all the big ones because, you can pick and choose. It's not like pulling divers and lead where, whatever you hit is what you hit. Whenever the year that we went, it's probably been 8 or 9 years ago, but we were using side scan and we marked a bunch of fish. So we had a good 3/4 of a mile stretch where we knew there was a lot of fish holding. So we dropped our lead and our divers, and 3 of our first 4 passes, you can legally keep 2 fish per day. And 3 of our first 4, it was me and one buddy. 3 of our first 4 passes, we hit fish. We hit 3 of them were like, the first one we hit was like a 54. And then the other 2 were like 25, 30 pounds. And then, we ended up catching our 4th one, our 4th keeper to limit out, an hour later, something like that. But, we had 3 fish that were in the 25 to 30 pound range and 1 that was 54 pounds. Now, guys are using live scope and going out there and catching up in the 80s to 100s. And it's like, is it legal? Yeah. But is it right? No.
Mm-hmm.
And, this other guy that I was talking to that's not guiding at all this year, he was, some of his clients last year, they don't care to eat them like me, but they were just feeding them to their dogs. And he goes, I'm not taking people out that are only harvesting these fish just to feed it to their dogs. Because if they want that, they can come up your way and catch some Asian carp.
Right.
And feed those to their dogs, which is like, yeah, the people, that want to turn blue cats into dog food, send them our way. Have some of these dang carp that are all over because we can't find shad anymore.
Yeah.
The carp are overtaking them.
That's a good point too. Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't have dog food plants that only took Asian carp versus the blue catfish. That's a good question.
But again,
Oh.
I think it's government and politics that are, just trying to take the blue cats out of at least the eastern part of the country for that reason. They're just
and that's it, because there's a dog food plant down here that I didn't even realize until starting the podcast here is like, that's what is right here. I think it's called Champion or something. I don't remember. I could be wrong, Justin. If you're listening, you can correct me if you want. But I didn't even realize it. It's not too far from here. Danny Stone Outdoors, he said, the biggest justification is that pay lakes are the only chance for kids, old people, and handicapped to fish. I remember years ago they had pay lakes with pond-raised channel cats for that. And earlier, Mark House had also said, is there any way to determine which pay lakes only stock channel catfish? And I tried to put out on Facebook asking about that on Run and Gun Catfishing, hoping to get some. And I got a couple of responses saying that there are some that only stock, but there's also some that only stock a certain pond with channel cat, but all the rest also have the blue and flathead and trophy size catfish. So I mean, I don't know how easy it'd even be to find a place that exclusively stocks farm raised channel cats. I don't even know how you would, but it'd be honestly like a good idea to find some and put those on exposing pay lakes. Like, this is the only kind of pay lake that we would endorse, and we'd prefer to promote those kind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I thought would be a good idea, but I just really didn't find that many options.
Yeah, because that was a common rebuttal that I'd get from people too. Was, well, that's the only place that I can go, and it's just like, well, I can appreciate that, but at the same time, if there's one that raises or stocks farm raised fish, do that. They're not depleting everybody's resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know, like, Julie and I learned a lot when we started this, and like talking to people, and like you're talking about politics and stuff, and some of the bigger ones here in Ohio. I really think that is a lot of the issue, and why nothing has ever even tried to be done is because, like, it's so deep in the amount of people that are involved with it. Like, there has
money.
There's a kickback for them, and if you start exposing them, and it affects all of them. Sadly.
Mm-hmm. Hey Tim, how are you? He just hopped in. If it's just about gambling, they can have all these dang Asian carp and a snagging competition is what Danny Stone Outdoors says. Yeah, it's hard to understand. It's been a whirlwind learning the ins and outs and how deep all of this stuff is, but. And Justin says we're talking about farm stock. I personally don't know of any that stocks farm raised fish only. And I have spent a lot of time looking because it would be great to put them out there and support them. And that's what I said. ran into one, and I'll have to go and dig up what his name was. I feel like his name was Ricky, but you know, and see if he knows of any. He said, you know, he's all for people continuing it to vote no for House Bill 397. He is for the businesses that are stocking trophy catfish. He did say that, but he said, and it doesn't impact me because I only do farm raised. So I'm thinking, do you want to form an alliance with me and vote yes on 397? You know, but anyway, I know that's probably not going to happen. But if he really only does stock farm raised, I would shout out his, you know, but I'll have to look for it again.
Does anybody's uncle have a bunch of money and some land, and we can start a GoFundMe?
You know, I've been looking for a long lost rich uncle. I just haven't come up with any. I was hoping Charlie had one somewhere, but I guess that's not going to be either. Oh man, mostly all pay lakes have switched to trophy catfish. I know.
So Josh, before we hop off here, do you have a website if people are interested in like ordering from you, or do you just do Facebook? How can people get in touch with you if they're interested?
Pretty much just Facebook. I mean, I do have an Instagram, but I'm not near as active on there. And I have a .com website, but it's just the domain. There's nothing actually on it. I bought the domain like a year or two ago. But yeah, through Facebook.
And what else do you do besides just actual reproductions like that? Don't you offer other, you know, things on the side as well? Like,
so I started painting fishing lures last summer. Boy, that was a rabbit hole.
oh yeah.
Well, I went fishing last May, and I bought some lures that one of my buddies painted from a tackle shop. And I thought, man, that sure would be cool to catch a fish on a lure that I painted. I have about 20 lures over here hanging that I clear coated today that I'm taking on my trip with me this weekend whenever we're going for a week. But yeah, so I started painting fishing lures, and I got into the glide bait world, which that's its own world in itself. I just started doing just some of the lower end ABS plastic glide baits, putting killer paint jobs on them, and you know, some of the higher end bass fishermen, you know, they'd rather have the resin baits because they swim a little bit better. I'm still learning all this stuff, but yeah, that was something I started dabbling in with. Every once in a while, I'll mix in a goalie mask or a guitar. Like I've painted, I don't know, I've painted like 3 or 4 goalie masks for myself. I got an idea for a new one after USA won the Olympics. I kind of want to do a Team USA tribute for next season whenever I play men's league, but we'll see. Gotta have time to paint that.
Yeah.
Haven't done any motorcycles. I mean, I could. I just haven't. But if it can be painted, I can probably do it.
Sweet. And then David Arnold says, do you make big baits?
Like artificial ones? Like for fish
Yeah,
pounds?
be more specific, David Arnold.
Like this one?
That's really cool.
Yeah, this was and it's not a really big skipjack. This was a 12-inch skipjack that I molded off of a fish I caught down at Wilson. You can't see it, but there is a close to 100-pound catfish. There's the belly of it back there. This is going with that. But I do try to make, I've got more bait fish molds than probably any other taxidermist out there, just because I do a lot of giant catfish. I've got probably 7 or 8 different sizes of gizzard shad. I've got a bunch of small carp in the freezer, and I say small carp, I'm talking like 12, 14-inch stuff, just to do mold so I can make cut baits. I did mold an eel from the Asian market not too long ago because we don't have any eel around here, and I had a customer from way out east caught a big blue cat on an eel, so I needed an eel for a cut bait, so I molded it. And my wife has said she's never bringing home fish from the Asian market for me to mold ever again.
Those eel, man, they're wild.
My kids thought it was hilarious though, because they're just walking around with these 2 eels in a bag.
Yeah, that was so funny.
That is cool. Well, if nobody has any more questions for him, we'll be wrapping it up here.
Yeah. It was a good time. It was nice talking to you and learning more about
thanks for having me, guys.
We actually have to be careful in Southeast Missouri when we live stream while fishing. You can't show anything that will give up your location. Commercial guys have watched us and put nets up.
Who is that? Where are they from?
Danny Stone Outdoors.
What
You
part of
familiar?
Southeast? Yeah, because I'm in Southeast Missouri, so I'm.
Yeah, that's what. Danny, what part are you located in?
I guess I'm gonna have to start blurring out my backgrounds too now.
I mean, it's sad, but we all do that even on the Ohio, like the group that we all fish with.
I don't even live anymore.
Yeah, like before you post your pictures, like you make it a sticker or you put some crazy background to it, just because there's hardly any good fish left. So, you know, the last thing you want is for them to know which part of the river you're in.
That is the only picture I've ever blurred the background out of, is when Charlie caught a 70-pound catfish in that pool that we all fished at, Boots on the Water. He put his arm on a 70 up there, and it was like everybody went wild over it, which was like 2 years ago now, I guess. But
okay, so he's a little bit south of me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right next to Jerry Parker. Actually, I know Jerry pretty well. We've talked about fishing together. Our schedules never lined up. But yeah, I know where you're at in New Madrid. We used to play football there in high school. But yeah, I forget who I was talking to a couple weeks ago, but they said the same thing. Like, you post a picture on the river with a good fish, and people are background watching just to go out and throw nets out, and that is insane.
Yep.
Oh, they'll put trout lines up while we're fishing, like all around us, all the way side to side around us. And we accidentally snag them because we're dragging baits, you know?
Well,
I mean, it's just the thing.
Darn. Yeah.
Yeah.
You hate to have to do that.
Yeah. Like, sorry, them planer boards.
That's the worst. That's the worst whenever you're pulling boards, though, and you get about 3 of them into one dang trot line. I had that happen at Lake Leopards once.
Yeah.
I was so mad.
I know, you know, Jerry, you've met me 3 times.
So I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry.
But it's hard, though. I have to give you grace on it, Josh. Like, when you go and you're out and you're meeting so many thousands of people at events and stuff like that, it's so hard to remember names. I'll be like, "What's your handle?" Because I don't remember. Tell me your name on the internet, and because TikTok was my biggest thing, meeting people.
And to be fair, the name sounded incredibly familiar, and I'm watching this on my iPad, and it's only like this big, so I can't even really see.
Yeah. And Danny Stone is he is a guy in our town as a barber, so like that name's so familiar to me. Stoner is what we call him, but yeah, Danny Stoner.
Sorry, Danny.
Oops. Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, we really appreciate you hopping on here and sharing that fish with us and giving us a firsthand look at it. It's really cool.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I'll probably post some videos in the next day or two and stir the pot a little bit. But.
The last thing. There you go. He had the piebald with a question mark on its head. So that's probably.
Yep. Okay.
There we go.
Yep, now I remember you. Yeah, I remember that. That was a cool looking fish.
Yep. So thank you so much, Josh. It's been fun.
You're welcome.
You guys, everyone in the comment section, thanks for joining us. Don't forget, reshare this out so more people can see the work that Josh is doing on this catfish. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.